Good evening, you magnificent collection of putrid assholes. This is your commissioner speaking. We are now 6 weeks into the season, so I thought it fitting for an update. Presently, over the Western Division, Sam, a perennial powerhouse in our current reigning champion, is leading with a record of 4-2. Leading over the East and over the entire league is another perennial powerhouse, Jessie. However, she's weak at quarterback, most importantly with that mouth breather Eli Manning, and I believe that if she plays him and he throws at least 3 picks, the league should strong arm her into changing her team name to the Mouth Breathers. A few comments about the draft. We haven't had a chance to really all reflect back on what we've seen, and now we have a sufficient sample size where we can really make some good judgments about who had a good draft, who didn't, what were some just horrible calls, and what wasn't bad calls, but what just, it's going very badly. One of mine that has been so bad is I kept David Wilson. I actually did it in 2 leagues, and it's very much a feeling right now of the ship sinking. But it's a ship that feels like it's been taking on water since week 1. I remember immediately after the draft, all of us looking at each other's rosters, and multiple people commenting, at least 3 people besides myself, commenting that Dan had a great lineup. And this was largely because of he kept Doug Martin and he took Ray Rice in the first round. And Dan is presently 1-5, and his underperformance is largely the result of Doug Martin just having a really unimpressive season and Ray Rice not doing well largely because of injuries. There's always bad picks. That's the way it goes. But then there's the strange picks that you can tell this was a mistake. And the biggest mistake or strange pick that we had was Guy's 4th round pick of Seattle Seahawks defense. If you want to see it, if you needed to laugh sometime, go and look up the draft history, look at the 4th round, and look who is still on the table, and Guy took the Seattle Seahawks defense. And what's also interesting about this is Guy keeps bringing up the point that because it was Friday night, he had to auto-draft. However, if he would have auto-draft, could have done better than that. I'm willing to put my money on that. They would not have picked up a defense unless he pre-programmed the slots. Which, did you really put a defense in your 4th round? I don't understand. And I'm not picking on Guy. But a number of events have centered around Guy that are of particular interest this season in debauchery and arrogance. Guy took Aaron Rodgers in the very first round. Guy won all 3 weeks of the season. He is doing great. He is soaring high. He is on top of the West. Guy is the best in the West. And then he gets to the end of the 3rd week, and my best guess is he doesn't have the best running backs, but he's doing fine. And he has Aaron Rodgers. It's okay. And Aaron Rodgers' bye week comes up, and Guy pulls what I have dubbed the fantasy ejector seat. He is cruising high and then just and he puts Aaron Rodgers on the trading block. Does the most drastic thing possible. And he puts it out there, and honestly, I didn't know what to offer him. I figured I was gonna have to pay such high price that, I was doing okay. I thought I could do better for a trade for a quarterback than what he was gonna ask for Aaron Rodgers. But lo and behold, sneaky ass comes along, and the final trade ended up being Guy gave Ryan Matthews and Mr. Rogers for RG3, CJ Spiller, and Santana Moss. This was a trade rape that was so uncomfortable to watch that it was comparable to watching Deliverance. It is worth noting that since this trade in week 3, Guy has lost every single game. It was a bad trade, and it happens. You got trade raped, and I'm delighted at the amount of trading in the league so far. I've had some great trades. I've seen some great trades. First important note, I apologize deeply for all of my vetoes last season. I vetoed the veto, and now, I will not veto anything unless I know for a fact, or an owner approaches me with sufficient evidence to say, especially going into the later portion of the season, that you are colluding. If there is not sufficient evidence, I will not veto, and I will not approach another owner to veto. With that being said, there is a way to do a trade, and there is not. I'm not going to sit here and tell you about the stats you should look at. I'm talking about we're all gentlemen, and there's a lady here, and there's a way to do this. And Jake took this the wrong way. God, of course, I'm sorry, not Jake, Stewart. And there's a way to go about proposing a trade. You don't just send a contract to someone when you want them to join your record label. You don't just send a note into a realtor's office telling him you want to buy this house. It doesn't work that way. It should be the same way in fantasy, damn it. You talk, you negotiate, you see what they're after, what they're trying to do, and you see if this is a person you want to jump into bed with, essentially. And a lot of you don't get that. Maybe you don't care, but I'm always going to be more open to a trade if we talk about it like gentlemen or ladies or lady, whatever. And some of you, I don't like finding a trade just sitting in my inbox in the league when we haven't discussed anything, especially if you're asking for a top 3 receiver of mine, Wells, motherfucking trade rapist. As I have discussed already, there is a great disparity between the East and the West. It has been consistently present. So I put forth a motion to, at the beginning of the 3rd season of Debauchery and Arrogance, to reorganize the divisions, to sufficiently mix them. I say a 50-50 mixture. And we'd be very careful about how we mix them, and we'll talk about it beforehand. But this is a motion that's on the table, and if you don't like it, I'm probably going to do it anyway, so just go ahead and agree with me. Look at the numbers from last season and this season, and it's necessary. You have Jake and Baxter in the same division, so it's necessary. We're having polls. It's important to vote in the polls. The rules for this league are not stagnant, and I want to improve the league. I want this league to stay together. I want it to stay interesting, so I'm putting polls up. Many of them, some of them totally retarded and silly, and a lot of them have to do with scoring going forward. While we're in the middle of playing, this is when you ask people about how would you like scoring to change. I'm trying to ask you, I'm trying to improve this, and if you're not answering these questions, I don't know. My last question, which has to do with harsher penalties on interceptions thrown by quarterbacks, half of the league voted, and it was a split vote. This doesn't fucking tell me anything. I think it's a good idea. I mean, I propose this with the bias that I think there should be a harsher penalty. Right now it's 2 points. I think it should be at least 4. I think 5 is better. This is particularly aimed at that mouth breather Eli Manning. Lastly, there are a few of you who make my life difficult by just not fucking being in GroupMe, and I have to go out of my way to try and get in contact with you, and it drives me fucking crazy. Listen, and your excuse for this has been, well, I don't like how much I get bothered by GroupMe. Hey, motherfucker, it's 2013, there's iOS 7, you go into the settings, you go in the notification center, and you tell it, hey, you know what, GroupMe, I don't want to hear from you, but every day you make a point to go in and check it. because someone in your fantasy football league might be trying to tell you something. Might be something on a trading block. Might be discussing something. Might be something funny going on. It's not a big fucking deal. Don't be such a dick about it, Sam, and just do it. And turn off notifications. That's what I do. I don't get notifications for the league that I fucking manage. You're welcome, by the way. To the second half of the second season of debauchery and arrogance, I wish you all the worst of luck. May the odds be ever in my favor. I bid you all adieu.